All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is November 15th. We got ourselves a Wednesday with a decent amount of NBA games on today's slate. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'll give you my lean on the spread, give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about the games, but all my final plays, those will be in the pinned comment if you do want to fade my picks and do the opposite. Yesterday, another fadeable night, and man, now it is November 15th, and I said at the beginning of the year that back half of November into, I would say, the first couple weeks of December is really a sweet spot for the NBA, where books are still figuring out lines and odds, so there's a lot of value there, but we have enough data to go off of and start making some analytical decisions. I got to put my money where my mouth is, because it is now getting into the back half of November. So this is our chance. Hopefully, we walk the walk as much as we talk the talk, because so far the walk hasn't been all that great. Speaking of not all that great, the ride of the day also does not come through yesterday. Got to drop the womp womp on D Graham. Isaiah Stewart over 19.5 points plus rebounds. I loved this spot. I really did. No Duren. Isaiah Stewart should be able to grab some boards and eat. He scores 10 points, and it's like, okay, that's not bad, right? How many rebounds did he have? One rebound? Beef stew, one rebound? What are we doing? Ride of the day does not come through either, but it was a good look there. Maybe it's just me jinxing it, right? I've been kind of a jinx as of late. But guys, if you do want to be the ride of the day, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I'm jumping on board with one person's pick, and I'll give you guys a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you lose, you got to face the womp womp. So go at your own risk here. But again, you got to use that hashtag ride of the day. Before we jump into the picks, I want to shout out Sleeper and tell you guys you're crazy if you're not on Sleeper right now. If it's legal in your state and you are not using this app, you're missing out on one of the most fun DFS pick'em apps out there right now. And they got you with a free square if you are new. Jason Tatum, 0.5 points. You can also use the link in the pinned comment and sign up for Sleeper. You get 100% of your first deposit match. So go check it out, guys. I love this app. I wouldn't be promoting something if I didn't love it. You see me on TikTok, see me on the YouTube shorts promoting this app all the time, because it is that fun. And you get your deposit matched. Kind of a no-brainer to me. Go ahead and check it out. Let's jump into game number one here. We got Washington hosting Dallas. Dallas gets the loss last night, which if you watch back the video, I kind of was like, well, I think Dallas is the better team than the Pelicans, but I'm not betting it, because this line, if I'm reading this line correctly, Vegas likes the Pelicans here, and wouldn't you know it, the Pelicans win that game outright. But in this spot here, we have Washington plus 5.5 at home. The total sitting at 243. I'll start with the total because it's going to look alarming at 243, but this is a really good Dallas offense against a really bad Washington defense. Like, if there weren't a couple more teams worse than Washington this year, then they'd be by far and away the worst defense in the league. Like, year in and year out, if this Washington team was performing like this, they could easily be, the worst defense any other year. But there are a couple other Ds that are just that much worse this season. But again, Dallas's defense also not all that great, and Washington has been pushing the tempo to some degree here this season. So I don't mind the over in this spot. Like, you look at Washington, you don't think of them as a powerhouse or anything like that, but they're scoring the 8th most points in the entire league this season because of the pace they're playing at and the pace that they're setting, I guess. So I'll lean towards the over 243, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think this game gets the tempo going here. In terms of a spread pick, I think Dallas bounces back after a win there. Does the back-to-back affect them? I hope not. Luka, Kyrie, both not listed on the injury report right now. And the way that this team's been playing, if they do have, Luka and Kyrie, I do think that this is a spot in which they should be able to beat Washington by plenty of points here. So give me Dallas minus the 5.5 and a slight lean towards the over 243. It might be too high to make a final play, but I'd be crazy to lean towards the under. Next up, we have Atlanta taking on the Knicks. Now, Atlanta on the back-to-back here. They get the win against Detroit last night, but Trae Young did not play. Welcome a baby girl into the world. He's still questionable for this game. I'm almost assuming that he plays. I don't know what I'm basing that assumption on, but assuming that he plays just because it wasn't like an injury or illness or anything like that. It was a personal matter that he missed the game for. And you know that there's some like bad blood and beef between Trae Young and obviously the Knicks here. So if he plays, I like the Hawks here. If he doesn't, I'd probably just stay away from the game. RJ Barrett, questionable this game as well. But keep an eye on the pin comp to see what we end up rolling with in this game, because I don't necessarily hate the Hawks side of things. I think that this could be a spot in which, Trae Young returns after a night off. He's not on the back-to-back, and he goes out there and cooks, because this has been a Knicks team that hasn't really been all that consistent, right? Like, the wins that the Knicks have, I wouldn't necessarily say are these sort of triumphant wins. And speaking of that, they did beat Atlanta earlier on in the season, so it's a revenge spot for Atlanta as well in this spot. So I'll take the Hawks here. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 230. I think it's a little bit too high. We did see a high scoring game last time they played. I think it was like 125 to 120, but I think the pace gets slowed a little bit here because, you know, you have the Knicks, who are a slow team, obviously, right? And then the Hawks, maybe they're a little bit slower, maybe they're a little bit more calculated here, especially on the second night of a back-to-back. They might not be running up and down the floor there. So I'll take the under 230 in this one as well. All right, this one probably is the game of the night here. We have the Celtics going to Philly here. Philly at home, plus 3.5. The total's at 223.5. Last time they played was just about, what, a week ago or so, and the Sixers came back and won that game 106 to 103. In terms of injuries, we do have Kristaps Porzingis listed on the injury report, questionable with a knee, but I've seen him on his reports on Twitter not being like how excited he is for this game and how he loves being, the third option on a team. He feels like it's his perfect role, which is kind of a weird thing to say unless that was a fake report. But nonetheless, guys, I do think Kristaps plays, but that's going to totally impact our play here. If Kristaps plays, I think the Celtics, and I am a biased Celtics fan, hence the hat, so take this with a grain of salt, I can admit that, but I do think if he plays, this is a revenge spot, for the Celtics. I don't mind them whatsoever in this spot, but if he doesn't play, then I probably, again, stick away from this game. I don't think I'm going to bet the Sixers here. They are on a back-to-back in which they lose to the Pacers yesterday, one of our only wins yesterday, which is a great spot, but you can't brag about being, having a sharp bet if you blow the rest of the slate, right? So I'm not taking credit for it, but it was a good spot and a good line read. But nonetheless, give me Boston here, minus 3.5 points. In terms of a total here, 223.5. The last game they played, again, went super low, but I think that this one, the tempo gets up. You have a Philly team that I don't think they're going to slow it down on a second night of a back-to-back, and they've been playing fast. And the Celtics, obviously, I wouldn't say that they've necessarily been playing fast, but one of the most efficient offenses in the entire league. If they can go out there and give you near 120, I think this is an absolute lock for the over, obviously, because the Sixers are going to stick in this game, but this is probably like a 120 to 115 type of a finish in which we see this cash fairly easily. So even if it's, Celtics run away with it, or I guess it's a close game, 115 to 110, like this is a doable number here. I think the over cashes, but I did take that over in the first time around here, and they finished 106 to 103. So what do I know? Go ahead and fade me. All right, guys, my favorite sports betting research tool, Outlier. Make sure to go ahead and check it out. You can get 7 days free with the link in the pinned comment. If you can understand that green means good and red means bad, then you can profit with Outlier. I promise you that. It's a one-stop shop for all of your needs when it comes to sports betting research, and they have a ton of new tools in there as well. So go ahead and check it out. It's my favorite player prop research tool, bar none. All the filters you can apply and everything like that and see the trends, it is absolutely nuclear. Go check out Outlier, guys. That link's in the pinned comment for a 7-day free trial. And spoiler alert, I said that right? Spoiler alert. If you do want to go ahead and continue with your subscription, it ain't that expensive. $19.99 a month. Again, it'll pay for itself in no time if used correctly. Go check out Outlier. Let's go ahead and get back to this slate. Next game, we got Toronto at home taking on the Bucks in this spot. Now, I will admit that this is a Bucks team that has me absolutely perplexed. They are 6-4 on the season. You're probably like, oh, nice, that's a positive record, right? They're 1-8-1 against the spread. Now, I can admit that some of these games, the Bucks' expectations have been fairly high. So all of a sudden, you're looking at them with these high numbers to cover, which doesn't always result in a good against the spread record. Because even if they get a win, you're looking at a tough spot here. But I do think 4.5 is a good Bucks spot. If you're on the Toronto side of things, I will say this. I'm not here to talk you off of it because I do think that, that is a decent amount of points. Though it's only 4.5, Toronto has been able to play some teams fairly close this season, and they're coming off of a nice win against Washington. But again, it was a close game. So they're keeping a lot of games close. Even when they do seem to lose some, they're losing by that, I guess you'd say 5 to 8 range, which again is pretty close, 4.5 points here. But nonetheless, I do like Milwaukee. I do think that this is a spot in which Milwaukee can probably overpower Toronto here, and they are due for a win. They got beat by Toronto 2 weeks ago here, so I think that they bounce back and get that dub. Total sitting at 227.5. I think this one's an easy under, at least in my opinion. I think this one finishes 110 to 105, 115 to 110, that type of thing. Close-ish game, but well under 227 by at least 3+ points. So give me the under in this spot as well. Next up, we have Orlando taking on Chicago, and this is one that the line the line's pretty interesting to me. So Orlando coming off the back-to-back, they get blown out by Brooklyn yesterday, 124 to 104. If you're keeping track at home, we had the under in that game, and it ended up hitting the over by like 10 points. So way to go, Ev, right? But what I will say is Chicago, not a very good team here. Orlando has been, for all intents and purposes, a pretty good against the spread team this season. 7-3 against the spread, going up against Chicago here, who is 4-6-1 against the spread. So little weird to see this line where it is. Fultz is questionable. No Harris and no Wendell Carter Jr. We know that, but you have no DeMar DeRozan, no Terry. Caruso's questionable. Patrick Williams is questionable as well. So why in the world are the Bulls favored by 2? That's the weird stuff, right? Like, this seems, again, for all purposes here, Orlando should be the favorite in this game, yet they're getting points. So I like Orlando in this spot. It smells like a trap, but it may still be worth taking the chance here because I do think that their defense can kind of shut down a Bulls offense that isn't all that good to begin with, right? Like, this Bulls offense, bottom 3 in the league, field goal percentage here, bottom 6 in the league in terms of scoring. We have a top 10 defense on the other side of Orlando, but don't forget that I said it, right? Like keep that in mind. Overthink this game in terms of throwing it out there, because why is Chicago favored? It really does not add up. Total sitting at 216. That's also very telling to me as well. Like, why is this total so damn low? Is this going to be one of the slowest, messiest games ever? Potentially, okay? So I'm going to lean towards the under, even though it is so low, but for 2 different reasons. This could be a game that I feel like I have a good read and feel for, but we stay completely away just because of the the saying of Vegas knows best, and line reading is a thing. Like, you could look at this, not know squat about basketball, look at the team's records, who they've played recently, and blah blah blah, and be like, why is Orlando favored? Like, someone that doesn't get that could almost figure that one out. It's just that weird. But yeah, keep that in mind, guys. Overthink this game if you are going to bet on it. All right, Phoenix taking on Minnesota team. Phoenix taking on Minnesota here. Phoenix is at home, and they're heavily favored here, but I get the hype behind Phoenix. So we look at last game that we just talked about, Chicago-Orlando. Why the hell is Chicago favored? It makes sense why Phoenix is favored by this much. They should finally be healthy. Beal's probable. Booker's probable. Durant's obviously playing. And then there's nothing much to note on the Minnesota side of things in terms of injuries. Minnesota is coming off of a win last night against Golden State in a very close game. Then they travel to Phoenix. Again, makes sense why Phoenix is favored in this one. And I think I'm going to follow that line. The fact that they open up here and are favored so heavily, I think I'm going to go with the Vegas knows best type of mindset here, because this is a Minnesota team record-wise against the spread-wise that has been playing better than the opposition, especially Phoenix. I think they're like 1-3 at home too, which is not all that great, but I'm willing to kind of throw my hat into the ring with a healthy Phoenix team and see what we end up getting out of it, because it's been a while since these guys have played together. Now, if Booker doesn't play, or Beal, if the big 3, and I don't even know if we can call them that yet, if they're not playing, then this is probably a game in which I flip to the Minnesota side of things, because they're such a legit defense. But for right now, I don't care how good your defense is. It's tough to stop those 3 guys, or should be tough to stop those 3 guys. Total sitting at 227. I'm going to lean towards the under, though I think this is a spot in which we get near that number, because if Phoenix is dictating the pace here, I think the Timberwolves are going to have to play up and play a little bit faster. But 227, still a little outside of my range there in terms of what I like for an over. If this was at 224, I probably would slightly lean towards the over or stay away from it, because I think this is right around 224, or I would say 223 to 225 tonight. Lakers taking on Sacramento. It's worth noting that the Lakers are on a back-to-back here, and when the Lakers are on back-to-back, there's always a chance that some of their guys sit. Sacramento not on a back-to-back, coming off a nice win over Cleveland, 132 to 120, and though it didn't seem like he was going to get the run, De'Aaron Fox came back, and he's not listed on the injury report today either, so that is definitely obviously good news for the Sacramento Kings. Give me them minus the 1 point. I do think that, obviously they went through their little rough patch, but we said it, this Kings team is starting to get hot again, right? They beat Portland, they beat OKC. The real test was them beating Cleveland, and they beat them by 12 points? So yeah, give me Sacramento in this spot against a Lakers team that is on a back-to-back, coming off of a real big win over the Memphis Grizzlies. Yes, I leaned yesterday's video, Memphis here, but luckily we didn't make that a final play, because it would have been another thing that I touch and turn to you know what. But I do think this is a good spot for Sacramento, a healthy Sacramento that is, and a team in which I wouldn't be surprised if like the Lakers sit a guy that's not on the injury report right now early in the morning at the time of recording, but by game time there's all of a sudden like a AD or LeBron is out rest or something like that, right? Load management. So give me Sacramento here minus the point. In terms of a total, 233. It's a pretty sharp line. I have this game set to go right at between 232 and 236, which puts 233 right in the middle there. But what I will say is that, I don't think that there's going to be a crazy amount of defense necessarily in this game. So by default, I'm leaning towards the over here, 233, even though that number seems a little bit high. 9.5 points, that's what Portland's getting. It's a big number, but I do think Cleveland gets it done. We have Portland hosting Cleveland here, but I really can't look past this spot and think, okay, well, Portland's going to keep this game close. They are just not, they're just not a good team, obviously, and they have so many injuries that they've dealt with. We know that, but Brogdon's questionable, which is great. Obviously, Scoot's out for a while. Robert Williams out for season. Simons, I think, is due back in December, which is a while. The only thing that I will say is that Darius Garland, who's a huge piece to this Cleveland team, is already ruled out tonight, so that kind of stinks. Okoro's also out as well, so if you're taking Cleveland here, which I do think that is the spot to take, I think they are that much better. But 9.5 points is a lot, but you won't catch me betting on Portland here. So by default, I'm looking at Cleveland. I think that they can win this game by double digits, even without obviously Garland out there. I think Mitchell, Allen, and company have a really good chance of still kind of dominating this. Karis LeVert, Max Strus, Mobley, like even without Garland in there, you look at their starting lineup, you're kind of like, oh, that's pretty damn legit. And then you look at Brogdon, who again, he's questionable. I've seen some sites say that he's ruled out, so depending on there, I guess it really wouldn't matter, but really just isn't the same type of a team that Cleveland has. So I could see it being a Cleveland spot even without Garland, but it is a high number. Total sitting at 221 here. I think this Cleveland defense is shaping up. It's not the defense that we knew last year, right? Like that was the reason they were winning games and whatnot. I think that this is a defense that's starting to get better and starting to get back in the mix as Jared Allen came back and now is getting more comfortable. So 221, maybe a little bit high for me. I'll take the under in this spot. Guys, that is all I have for you in today's video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment 17. If you comment 17, we're all going to have good luck tonight. If you're still watching right now, comment 17. We need some luck on our side because we've had some bad beats and some brutal plays. But I hope you guys appreciate, like, I'm coming on here owning the losses, and I really am. Like, I know we have to be better, but I've been in the game long enough to know that this is and not to use the cliche phrase, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. So, the relative or I guess like keeping it relative, I should say, we have so many more NBA bets to make than what we've made so far that yes, we're hitting at like a 47% clip right now, which is so bad. But there are times during an entire year where you go through that stretch and you're hitting at that rate, right? And it's still a profitable year overall. It just so happens it's coming at the beginning, which is definitely tough. So yeah, that being said, that's all I have to say to you guys. Hopefully you have a good night tonight. Keep an eye on those pinned comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.